Hey friends, it's Cecilia Jane, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of sketching and watercoloring. I'm sorry for not having the fancy face intro. Hopefully my hands suffice. And also I apologize for the dirty background. The desk that I am working on is a total mess, as you can probably see, but that's okay. It's artsy. We love it. It has character. I was inspired by the YouTuber Catvalk. I'll put their channel right there. They were painting with watercolor and it was just so inspiring. They really embraced like the textures of watercolor and they just really looked like they had a lot of fun watercoloring. I haven't worked with watercolor in a hot minute and I really have never played around with like the wet on wet technique all that much because I used to be really picky with my art, but lately I've been really into the idea of like showing the process and really showing the medium. So I want to create some art that does that. So yeah, really what I was thinking is just sketching up some ideas I have in my head, and then I was really just going to create one finished piece of art with that. So I have an idea really roughly in my head of kind of like a little mushroom village with a cat, like a huge cat, like hanging around or sleeping or something. So that's kind of what I wanted to sketch up and then do kind of a little smaller painting towards the end of this video. I'm just going to be drawing with the General Pencil Co. Kimberly 4B pencil. I mentioned it in my May favorites video. If you want to check that out, I will put it up here. But yeah, I don't have exactly like an idea exactly of what I'm doing, but I have like the general theme or kind of like the image in my head. So we're just going to sketch it out. Often I find when like I have an idea in my head, I can't quite get to it. If I just sketch it out a few times, it'll eventually start taking form. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's the hardest part about art, is making it look how I want it to in my head. Which some people can just do that amazingly. I cannot. But I have found that if I sketch it out, I will get closer and closer and almost exactly to what I had in my head. So that would be my advice if you struggle with that. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to incorporate the cat. I was thinking just like maybe hanging around the mushroom house, but I don't want it to look like an evil cat or anything. I just want it to look like a curious cat. I just thought it would be cute to really show like the scale of the cat versus the mushroom house. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of something I'm thinking. That's just a very rough and loose sketch, but something along the lines of that. Just the cat kind of like curled up and curious about this like mushroom house. And I was thinking like maybe this drawing is not the best idea for like kind of what I want to play with watercolors. When you're doing wet on wet techniques, it's better I think to have like bigger sections of color as opposed to like more fine detail. But I was thinking I could lay the base colors out in that wet on wet technique. And I have to think about too if I want this to be more of like a spot illustration where it doesn't have a lot going in the background, or if I want some things kind of going on in the background. I'm thinking more towards lines of like one of those spot illustration type things where it kind of like fades out and it's just kind of like, I think Beatrix Potter did some of those. I'll try to insert some of her images that I'm talking about, like that kind of style where it just like focuses on this and fades out so it doesn't really show a lot of the background. That's kind of what I'm thinking, just because the background would probably be more mushroom houses, which would be a lot more detail and isn't really super crucial to like what I'm trying to accomplish with this illustration. Like I said, I want this cat to look like sweet looking. Like I don't want it to look like it's gonna terrorize them, but that just may be like the nature of the subject matter. It might just look like that no matter what. Just that the cat's kind of curious, so it'll really rely on the cat's expression to tell that story. Okay, so honestly the sketch is pretty messy, but I don't want to be sketching forever, and I kind of have a gist of what I'm gonna do. So from here we're gonna go cut a piece of watercolor paper. I'm thinking maybe like 5x5 or maybe 6x6, somewhere around there, and then I will come back and we'll start watercoloring. Well, we gotta sketch it first, but this is the watercolor paper I'll be using. It's Strathmore Watercolor Cold Press. It's 140 pounds, so I thought it would be good for this because it has some texture because it is cold press. And I just cut it down to 6x6. I'll be doing the image smaller than that a little bit, but I wanted some white framing. And then whenever I cut down watercolor, if there's a scrap that's a little bit smaller, I will use this to test my colors on, because colors are going to look different depending on like what kind of paper you use. So keep your scrap, don't throw it away. Alrighty, so I'm just going to sketch onto the watercolor paper with a Prismacolor Cool Erase. This is just in pink. It's decently erasable, not all the way, but also the pink is just going to help it to look less harsh as if I use like a graphite. I could use like a water soluble or like a watercolor pencil, but I don't know, I just always sketch with these and I like it, so that's what we're gonna use. So anytime I'm just doing a sketch on paper like this, I like to kind of keep my parameters of where I want the image to start and end and stuff. So I'm just roughly drawing kind of a guideline of where I want my image to mostly stay within. Before I really go on to refine anything, I'm just gonna block everything in. I definitely recommend doing this because before you commit to anything, you want to make sure you have everything in the right spot. Right now I'm trying to figure out where the second paw would go, which is something I should have done in the original sketch. Apologize if you guys can't really see this that well. Okay, so I got the sketch on there and it took forever because I was having some problems with the cat's pose and the cat's face, and then I figured it's gonna be all different when I like go to paint it anyways, so I just let it be. But now I'm just like lightly picking it up with the kneaded eraser. Okay, so I wanted to also play around a little bit with some drawing gum, which is also called liquid frisquet, and it's also called masking fluid. So basically you set this down in the spots you want to stay white. I'll probably put some like grass strands and things like that I don't want to get too colored, and maybe like the clouds and stuff. So, but also I wanted to test out the color palette that I plan on using on one of these sketches first before I just go in. It's always good to do like a quick little color study before you go in on the finished drawing, so that's what we're gonna do. So now let's go in with the drawing gum, and while we're waiting for that to dry, then we can do the color study. Make sure you use a brush that you don't really care about, because this stuff is like drawing gum, it's like a glue almost. I will ruin your brushes, so don't use a nice brush. Okay, so really quickly I just drew up very simple sketchy thumbnails, but basically what we're gonna do is just put some color on them really quickly and just kind of see what visually looks best. The watercolors I'm going to be using in today's video are Regina's watercolors. They are handmade, they are beautiful, they're wonderful, they smell great. I found them a long time through one of Emily Artful's video. I'll put her YouTube right here, but she kind of turned me on to them and I bought this palette. It's beautiful, cannot recommend it enough. I will put some links in the description of it. But yeah, we're just gonna drop some colors in there and see what looks best. Okay, so now we're gonna try like a sunset kind of vibe. Yeah, honestly, I don't have to do any more. I know this is what I'm gonna wanna choose, so that's the color palette. So I think I'm going to kind of wet the whole like mushroom area, get it all wet so that I can do like the wet on wet technique. Because I really want to embrace like the textures of the watercolor. And then I was thinking I might go in with like colored pencil afterwards and do some like more defining, and still obviously keep these textures and everything, but just kind of like further define it a little bit. I could also just do that with the watercolor. We'll see. Alright, now we'll go in and do the mushroom. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a space so they don't bleed into each other, and then I will just cover that up later. If you're gonna be doing this wet on wet technique, you definitely want to have like a thicker paper, because you're gonna be using a lot of water, obviously, as the technique implies, wet on wet. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the sky, but I didn't want any pink to get in it, so I just changed my water real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and wet this whole sky. So now we're just gonna start adding our blue. Oh yikes, that's really... So yeah, kind of, I think maybe the like aesthetic or look I'm going for is kind of those older children's books. That's kind of what I had in mind, but so we'll just kind of see. I'm just keeping my mind kind of open to whatever happens. Okay, so I got the blue on. It might be a little hard to see just because some of it's still wet, but it's very faint and subtle, and that's kind of what I wanted. Yeah, I might build up a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. I think the old children's book style would have maybe had like slightly less saturated red, but I love me some saturated colors. So I think I'm gonna shade the cat with a mix between that blue and that red. We'll see how it looks, but I'm hoping it'll be kind of muted, and then that way we can shade the cat with that instead of it being like black. Kind of tempted to just do the detail with watercolor since I already have it out. Okay, so my camera cut out for a little bit, and then I was like unsure if I just wanted to scrap this completely, so I just kept going. And I like it a little more now. There's still some things I want to add, but yeah, I took a little break and ate some food, and I'm feeling a little bit better about it. I think sometimes you just have to like force yourself to take a little break and then come back to it. So that definitely helped me, but now we're gonna keep on trucking. I added a little bit of line work almost to the mushroom, just with like the watercolor, like with more pigment on the brush, but I'm gonna kind of do the same thing to the cat. I was kind of keeping it light, but now I'm gonna go in and maybe add some darker line art. So I originally wasn't really gonna do line work because you know, I wanted this to look light and airy, but I think it'll still look light and airy. It'll just look a little bit more defined, which is kind of more what I like personally. Definitely liking this a lot better now that I added some line art to it. Yeah, so I really think the line art was like just what this piece needed. I didn't do it too harsh, so I think it was like, it's just the right color where it's not too harsh. It still has that look. The mushroom obviously has darker line art, but the mushroom itself and the parts of it are like darker. So I think it works in that respect. Stop. Please stop. What's in your mouth? Stop. Why? Alright, I'm gonna take off the masking tape on the clouds and the sun, mostly because I'm impatient and I'm like curious how it looks. I almost would have wished I would have put a little more blue because you can't really see them that well. So maybe I'll do that to this one before I take it off. And maybe I'll put a little bit more blue around it. I love taking off masking tape. So I think I could have not masked this grass and it would have been fine, but the colors are gonna like appear more vibrant when it's just the green as opposed to the green layered on like the blue. Alright, I'm really liking how that grass looks. It kind of looks like they're on a hill, like the house and the cat, which kind of helps add to this, I think, maybe. Alright, I'm gonna take off the sun and the cloud. Looks like a little bit of blue came through. I'm not exactly sure why there's blue right there, but that's okay. I wanted the sun to be pretty light, but now that there's that blue spot, I kind of want to make it a little darker to see if I can cover that up. Hey everyone, so it's actually the next day for me. I decided to give it a break just because I was like, oh, should I scrap it completely? I was kind of frustrated. But I came back to it today and I think it looks a lot better than what I thought it looked like. I tried to edit a few things on my iPad, so I'll insert that picture of it now. Basically, I brought in like the neck and shoulders and then put a little bit more like fluff on the chest to kind of like distract from the arms a little bit. And just like change the eye just a touch. So I think I'm gonna try to implement those changes as much as I can. I'm probably not gonna be able to bring this in as much as I would like to. That's kind of the goal for today. And then I think we're pretty much done. I can't remember who said this, but I don't know if it was like a podcast or if I was just listening to an artist or maybe it was a teacher. But I remember someone saying a good like strategy to try to like adapt is like the second you get like really bored with a piece or frustrated, that's when it's like time to take a break, or even like a day break or something like I did. I think that's really good advice because sometimes like just coming back to it with like a new perspective and fresh eyes like really helps. And I know this isn't always possible, obviously, because you have like commissions and work and things like that. But so as far as trying to bring the shoulder in, I'm basically just gonna try to like scrub away that darker color and maybe try to lift it up with like a paper towel. I don't know how well this is gonna work. That's what I'd always do with watercolor whenever I'm trying to like get a color to quote unquote erase. Yeah, and honestly that came out pretty well. I'm probably gonna add a few more like refining bits with the purple. The paper is a little roughed up there, but that's okay. Okay, so here's what What are you doing? So yeah, this is the finished piece. I will insert a photo that like maybe shows it off a little better. But yeah, overall I'd say I'm pretty happy with it. There are some things that I would like to change or would like it to be a little different, but hey, that's art. It's not gonna always turn out exactly perfect, but I still think it's really cute. So let me know down below in the comments if you enjoyed this video, what you think of the cat and what you like to watercolor. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. I am trying to post weekly. Also hit the bell notification button if you'd like to see every time I post. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye. I like to take this time of the video to thank the awesome folks who support me monthly over on Patreon. By doing so, they get different rewards like sneak peeks of sketchbook scan-ins, their name at the end of my videos, newsletters, prints, stickers, and other fun goodies. If this interests you, check out the link in the description.